They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
A fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or?
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 3. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, double a 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above them do, doesn't it?
Welcome to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Summerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. I'm Erin, and on this episode of the show, we will chat to Bowls Taranaki selector Alan Batley about his career, his club, and his students. Then we catch up with Des Coppins and have a chat about his bowling life, as well as reviewing the extremely successful fundraiser he was involved with for the Foxton Beach Bowling Club last weekend. First, though, my co-host Alex and I are going to have a chat about the upcoming Trans-Tasman, the Summerset Awards, and how to go about designing and ordering new club uniforms. Hi Alex, how are you going?
Good. I'm well, Erin. I'm well. Bright and chirpy. What are they? Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? Is that what they say?
Yeah, here we go. And first up, we're going to talk about the Trans-Tasman. So,
Yes.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. So I think the last Trans-Tasman, I was racking my brain. I think the last Trans-Tasman we had was 2019. It was
Yes.
2019, and then a global pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and we haven't had. I mean, we've barely had international travel, let alone international competition since then. So it's the first time we've had in a while. This was been rescheduled on 3 occasions, but we've got it now, which is great. So that we've got a Trans-Tasman coming up on the 4th of June, which will go the 4th, 5th, and 6th of June between, obviously, a Trans-Tasman, New Zealand and Australia. It's going to be 5 men, 5 women and a para team playing against their versions of that. It's going to be an exciting time, and it's going to be at Mount Tamborine, which is somewhere.
Somewhere about an hour in from the coast, isn't it? Which is different to a regular Trans-Tasman that we've had in the past, isn't it?
Yes.
What's the differences there?
Yes, it is. So Mount Tamborine's a relatively small club by Australian standards, membership-wise and everything, and they were approached and have agreed to create one of their greens, or make one of their greens emulate very closely what we will find in Birmingham when we go there for the Commonwealth Games.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that instead of it being like a wheat-based green like we would have in New Zealand or in Australia, whatever, I can't remember what they use, not grass, something else, something weedy. They're using literal grass on this green, so it's literally a grass green, and it's literally running between 8 and 12, or 8 and 11 seconds sort of thing. So it's going to be the closest we get to a Commonwealth Games surface to play on, which is fantastic for both countries, and will be really interesting to see how it goes. We've got different bowls. I think we've got different bowls for it, which again is what we're going to need when we go up north. Interesting time.
There will be differences between, you've just said different bowls, different grass.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be different play?
Yeah, you'd think so. So it's just a good opportunity for the players to practice, because it's a different game. We spoke to Sharon Sims last week. You know, when we play in New Zealand on the fast greens, we draw around a lot of bowls. We draw to a lot of bowls. We don't sit and stay on a lot of stuff. On the slow greens, it tends to be they draw one close, you sit through it, they sit through you, you sit through it, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think we'll see that they have an opportunity to practice, and I'm reticent to say that it's not competitive, because it is. Like, if we play Australia and Australia plays us, we want to be winning. But first and foremost, this is a perfect opportunity to practice for the Com Games for both teams, I think, under those conditions.
Yeah, definitely. And where will we be able to watch any Trans-Tasman action that's happening
Good
that
question.
weekend?
Good question.
Is it going to be available for us?
Yes, it is. There's going to be an embarrassment of information available to anyone who wants it. So I will be providing updates on Facebook and Instagram and our Bowls New Zealand website and Twitter, because we've got a Twitter. I'll just do it everywhere. But there's also a live streaming that's going to be available. So we're not sending our live streaming gear over from New Zealand to Australia this year. We're going to piggyback off the Bowls Australia content that they produce. They've said that that's all good, because obviously every game that they film is going to have a New Zealand team and an Australian team in it. So if you want to watch it, just keep an eye on the Facebook and the website, and we'll be sharing those live streams all weekend.
Excellent. And you will be also around doing updates on more than just the game that's being live streamed, won't you? So for people
Yes.
who have got interest in game not being live streamed,
Yep.
they just need to keep an eye on Facebook website, Instagram, and you'll be able to share all the updates and all the other information.
Yeah, it should be pretty intuitive. We'll be publishing a schedule, etc. It should just be that we keep people well up to date for those 3 days. It's Queen's birthday weekend.
Yes.
There's nothing better to do than to sit back and follow a Trans-Tasman, in my opinion.
On a long weekend. Results-wise, that will all be coming out of the Australian team, though, won't it?
Yes.
Yep, so we'll be keeping track of those and updating anyone, but if people want to be following along, they will also be updating their Facebook page. When I say them, I'm referring to Bowls Australia as well.
Yeah,
so
that's correct.
Yeah. Excellent.
What else? What else, Erin? Summerset Awards. I wanted to chat about the Summerset Awards as well. I think it's important that we just let people know that the Summerset Awards is coming up. So we've released now the awards pack, which is like an info pack. It's going out to all the clubs and all the centres. But in case that hasn't gone to the right places, it's also available on the Bowls New Zealand website.
Correct.
So if you click onto the Bowls New Zealand website, the first post and also on the side says Summerset Awards. Click here for info pack. You click there, you get an info pack.
And what's in the info pack?
Good question. In the info pack, it tells you exactly what you need to do to nominate someone for an award, but it also lists through the awards that are available. So there's an abundance. We've got Coach of the Year, Club of the Year, Male and Female Players of the Year, Emerging Players, Umpire, Team, etc., etc. The nominations need to relate to the period from July the 1st, 2021 to June the 30th, 2022. And nominations can be put forward by anyone, which includes but isn't limited to club centres and individual members, and you can put as many nominations forward as you want. I would suggest that if you're out there listening and you think you know someone who's done a really good job of your club administration, or there's been a coach that's made a difference, or there's a player who's succeeded in your district, have a look at the nomination forms, chuck one in. You know, what's the worst thing that could happen?
You could win.
The worst thing that could happen. Well, I suppose. I don't know.
What's the worst thing that could happen? And I think that you could say, so all centres and clubs are having awards functions and awards events at the moment as well.
Yes.
So many of those people who have won the awards at their centre level, at their club level, should definitely be being nominated by someone into our awards.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be a winner of your centre or your club to have a nomination, do you?
Absolutely.
Ours are open 100% to anyone who feels that there is someone worthy of being nominated there.
Chuck them into Martin at bowlsnewzealand.co.nz by the 1st of July and you're in with a chance. You know, we get less nominations than you'd think we would, and a lot of it's because people assume someone else is going to do it. So I would encourage everyone to have a nosy.
Never assume.
Give it a go. You know,
Never assume.
It's going to be a good time.
Excellent.
What else? Oh, I wanted to ask you a question, Erin.
Yes, go ahead.
And this is mainly for my own information, but also if anyone else is listening and is looking to ask the same question, it could be good. It's about a club kit.
Yes.
Or club shirts and pants and jackets, etc., etc. If your club or a club that you knew, hypothetically speaking,
as Alex asks on behalf of his own,
had a kit that it's time to get redone, or you might be struggling with supply issues and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. I did notice that Dynasty Apparel helps Bowls New Zealand out with our Blackjacks kit and staff kit, etc., etc. How would I go about asking them to help with my club kit, and what can they offer?
So they can offer pretty much anything. They could go from a bucket hat down to a pair of socks. They've got a very, very wide range, and they're a good team to deal with. I'm constantly throwing more and more requests their way, and they're getting them there. As you say, it has been a little bit of a challenging time with COVID and supply lines and stuff like that, but they've been working them through. We use them for our national team. So we have all of our playing kit for our Blackjacks, our Parajacks done by Dynasty. We also have all of our staff gear done by Dynasty and staff uniforms. We have had a special event gear done by them as well. So they have such a wide range. You could go, as I said before, you could go bucket hats, you could go playing shirts, you could go long sleeves or short sleeves, you could go collars or uncollared. You could. Most people are going to be going, oh no, we don't want to have no collar on our shirt. Don't be ridiculous, Erin. You can go to shorts, you can go to trousers, you can get a rain jacket, you can get a tracksuit, you can get a wheelie bag, you can get a backpack. One day we'd love to be able to have a specific bowls bag thrown into there. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
That'd be very cool. There's just so many things, and they're very obliging from a colour and brand and club identity.
Yeah, so like if I wanted to, if I had a picture in my head of what I wanted a shirt to look, because I know sometimes you're a bit restricted as to what you can do. But if I'd like mocked up a design for my club and I give it to Dynasty Apparel,
Yeah.
how much like that is it going to look at the end of the day?
Depends on how good your mock-up is.
Fair call?
Yeah, but no, they would. So the way that they work is they don't have just a wide range of coloured garments that you would get screen printed or embroidered. They have a standard range that you can do that too, but what's really cool is they use a process called sublimation, which means that whatever you can imagine and whatever you can put down on paper colour wise, within reason, they can probably recreate that for you. So if it means that you have a really intense gradient from a yellow down into a green because that's your club colours, and then it's got like a white streak through the middle of it, then you could do that. Or you might be a real dark based club, but you have a very, very bright logo that pops. Like, all these things are great because they get it all done on that piece of artwork and you can see it, and that's what's going to come through.
Okay. So what's my first point of call? I'm sold.
You're sold, yeah. You get your colouring in pencils out and start drawing your shirt.
It might go badly, but how do I do it? How do I contact Dynasty?
So they've got their website where you can inquire, but alternatively, if you want to, you can email myself, Erin, at bowlsnewzealand.co.nz, and I'll fire it across to the Dynasty team and they will find their local rep for you. And that's really good because they've got local reps that operate all throughout the country, and sometimes it's great because they will come to you with examples. You can actually sit and scribble on paper if you don't like what you're thinking of or how they've put the design together, or you want to change some colours, and it's just a little bit easier to be doing it than over the phone. And these reps do go above and beyond. Recently at Bowls 35 we had a rep dropping off a whole bunch of shirts to us on a Saturday morning, having done a flyby through the airport, so that was greatly appreciated. But yeah, so you can inquire at their website. You can send an email to Erin at bowlsnewzealand.co.nz. You can send an email to info@bowlsnewzealand.co.nz, and we will redirect you through to your nearest Dynasty rep and they will be in touch. The important thing that we need to know from you when you are inquiring probably is where you are based and the best way to contact you. You don't want, we don't want to be sending someone to you if you're not going to be available for a chat on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it just, they'll tie in with you the best time. And if we can have that information from you, then it just makes the process very easy.
Absolutely.
And gets it underway.
Oh, thanks, Erin, for that. I feel like I know how to go about getting some shirts now, which is very helpful. It's been a 2-in-1. So, rest of the Bowls Hour, who's up next?
Coming up next, we're speaking with Alan Batley here on the Bowls Hour. Welcome back to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Summerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. Now we're going to be speaking with Bowls Paritutu coach Alan Batley. How are you, Alan?
I'm very good, thank you.
Cool, that's good. So I thought the first question we'd start off with, Alan, is what's your first memory of like coming across bowls?
Oh, my grandfather, Ernie Carrington. I used to go and watch him play in the Taranaki Open.
Did you think then that you might take the sport up, Alan?
It was always in the back of my mind when I finished rugby, and I owned a business in Tokoroa, and I ran into a well-known bowler by the name of Robbie Robson, and he asked me if I wanted to play a game of bowl, so I went and had a roll-up with him and Neville Rispich, and that's how I got into bowls.
That's a pretty good start. That's cool. So you've had a pretty reasonable career, Alan. Is there anything that sort of jumps out to you when you look back over your bowling career that you think, yeah, that's one there that I really enjoy thinking about?
My first ever win in the Taranaki Open.
That's a good one.
That would do it. Can you talk us through that? How did that go?
Well, it was a close game all the way through, and I was leading, and then on the very last end, we were only in front by 2 shots, 25-23, and I threw a short jack.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't supposed to throw a short jack, but I threw a short jack. And I sailed past by a metre with my first one and a bit wide with my second one, but Mike Walsh managed to get one reasonably close. And long and short of the story is we won 25-24 after 25 ends.
That's great, fantastic. That must have been cool for you, thinking back to having gone and watched that event as a youngster to be participating.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Yes, especially for old Ernie, my grandfather. He, he tried for a number of years, and, the hardest thing is to qualify, let alone win it.
Mm. Absolutely. No, that's an incredible thing. So bowls coaching as well. We said at the beginning that you're a bowls coach. How did that come about?
I'm more of a selector.
Okay, that works.
That works. I'm actually the selector.
Yeah.
But I do encourage boys. I don't like to be regimental about coaching because unless someone's doing something really wrong, I'll just point them in the way. But with me, it's about involving the younger bowlers, encouraging them to get on the green, and if they're going for a practice something that's not working. Don't just go down and practice drawing to the jack, and try things that don't work in the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense to me. So that's been as your role as a selector. How long have you been the selector for, Alan?
I've been a selector for Taranaki for the first 2 years. It was Russell Hardy, a good mate of mine, and myself, and then I've been sole selector for the last 2 years, and it's come up for renewal again, and I've stood again and waiting to be reappointed by the centre.
Did you have to get your arm twisted to put your hand up for selector, or is it something you've always felt like you'd have something to offer in?
Actually, when I shifted back to New Plymouth and I played at Paritutu, I was fortunate enough to be rolling up one night and Dave Baldwin just walked past me and said, "Who are you playing the club fours with?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know." And he said, "Well, you do know now, you're playing for me." And we formed a relationship, and I owe it to him to put back in what he gave me out of bowls. He carted me all around New Zealand, Australia. We had some great times, and I'll never forget the Baldwins.
So you talk about Bowls Paritutu. Has that been your club the entire time that you've been in the Taranaki area?
No, due to work, I started off at Tokoroa, and then I came back to New Plymouth where I went to school and lived, and played in Paritutu, then went across to Mount Maunganui for build some bridges for the PJK project, and then shifted into Tauranga RSA, became president of the RSA for 2 years, and home to Paritutu.
Yeah. Tauranga RSA is where I played my first outdoor bowls. When I was a kid, at the they used to have a twilight bowling night on I can't remember what it was, a Wednesday or a Thursday night. It was down
Wednesday
by the
night.
Wednesday night, yeah. It was been, I don't know, turn of the millennium. I used to go down there and play twilight bowls.
Turn of the millennium.
There you go.
There you are.
It's Alex.
It's easier than saying 20 years ago, isn't it? That's cool. And so then you've come back to Paritutu. Can you just talk us through, we've seen some pretty cool stuff come from that club recently. I know you've built a live streaming, whatever you call it, shed or studio or something. Can you just talk us through some of the stuff that's going on at your club, please?
Well, it started, I became president 5 years ago, and I sort of looked at areas where the club could grow, and I could see the younger bowlers needed developing. So we sort of worked on that, and I got Brian Sanger to look after the bar. We had catering contractors, which we no longer have, and we took over the kitchen run by our ladies, and they do a great job in the open, and my wife is in charge of that. And Marty Jordan was to look after indoor stadium, and our job was to bring in new members and develop young bowls. And we have spent 5 years at getting to where we are now. And this year, out of the 7 Taranaki awards, Paritutu Bowling Club has won 5.
Congratulations.
I'd call that a win.
Yeah.
The Club of the Year, Player of the Year, Men's Player of the Year, Hamish Cuppy. Youth Bowler of the Year, Nathan Gooden. Umpire of the Year, Lorma Hibble. And Administrator, Sandra Zitterzon. But she's not only the administrator, she has, with Marty Jordan, developed our indoor stadium into something that I'd never envisaged seeing. I was there on Saturday, and we had 3 bowl singles, 7. He had to win 7 ends, no points, and we had the whole place full. And what an atmosphere to see these young boys practicing and playing shots. Incredible. And so the stadium is probably. I've got to be a bit careful here because as a Taranaki selector, I don't want my players burnt out before they start playing rep bowls next year. So, but it is developing the young game, and we've got 15 young players, all under the age of 28, that I've got to find a home for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's exactly what, you couldn't ask for much better in a bowling club, really, to have that sort of group of people at that age range too. It's long-term, you're talking long-term stuff. You can play bowls for 30, 40, 50 years. Imagine the grounding they're getting now. Like, you could rack up some pretty impressive records. I think it's really neat what you guys are doing. So your stadium, how does it play? Is the carpet okay at Paritutu?
Oh, yeah, very good.
That's good.
Oh, it's got its blemishes, but, that's part of bowls. You can be outside and get some wind and the bowl holds out, but you still, you can draw shots, and it's a reasonably good speed. And, yeah. But you see, the biggest thing with having an indoor stadium was around about 3 o'clock on Saturday, one of our prominent bowlers came in for a practice with 2 sets of bowls. His name was Craig Johns. And he came in, and the boys were out there, these young ones were out there playing. They looked across, and he was on rink 6, and he was there for an hour just practicing shots and everything. Mm-hmm. And I said to the younger guys, that's how you become a top bowler.
Yeah.
Time and
just
dedication.
Just getting your practice in, that makes sense.
Dedication.
Good keyword.
Dedication, application, it's all about that top 2 inches.
Absolutely. So
I say play the right shot at the right time. If you hesitate, undecided, stop, think, and try again.
That's good. I should put that up on a wall. It sounds
motivational poster.
It works. So we've had a lot of. We were just talking a bit earlier on the podcast. Our Bowls New Zealand Summerset National Awards are coming up, and we've sent the award pack out. Can we expect to see you guys flick us through some nominations, Alan?
Oh, for sure. Excellent.
That's good. You've heard it here first. I've got nothing to do with the selection process, so I can't be. I don't have to be too careful. That's good. Okay. Well, thanks for having a chat to us, Alan. We've got one last question for you. It's a bonus question, and we sort of ask on this podcast just something a little bit strange every week. It started off as vaguely bowling related things, but we've moved on. So our question this week for you, Alan, is if you've got a scone. So say, I think the lemonade scones are the best ones, but just say like a plain scone, and you've got cream and jam to go on the scone. Which one goes first? Jam.
Yep.
I think that's the right answer.
I agree with that.
Apparently, some people put cream and then a dollop of jam, which I just find staggering.
That must be a different country.
Yeah. Yeah, they must be. Well, thank you for talking to us, Alan, and taking the time. We appreciate that. Up next, we've got Des Coppins here on the Bowls Hour. Welcome back to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Summerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. Just this weekend gone, Foxton and Beach Bowling Club have had a massive fundraiser, and a main driver behind this is a gentleman by the name of Des Coppins. How are you, Des?
Good as gold, Erin. Yes, everything under control here.
Excellent. Good to hear. Now, you've had a busy weekend this weekend, haven't you?
It was fabulous. Yeah, they did themselves proud, really. The 90 Bowling Club, in conjunction with the Foxton Bowls people, getting all together, putting on a bit of a gala, and lots of activity, lots of people involved in the gala, playing bowls, and then, of course, the aftermath, which was the big one, raising funds for their burnt-out premises.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? So you've had, or I originally had asked Lisa White to come and have a chat about the fundraiser with us, but, although Lisa does enjoy talking, apparently not so much on a podcast. So
She's going to hit you up for this one.
She told me that you'd be a good person to chat to, Des. Can you just talk us through what's your involvement been with this fundraiser?
Well, first of all, hats off to Lisa. She's good at delegating, isn't she? She's terrific. She did actually put this together. It was her idea. And look, I've been involved in the racing industry, as you guys probably know, for a long, long time. And when some tragedy happens in the racing industry, it's like brotherly and sisterly love. We all get together and we help out as much as we possibly can. If it's an injured jockey or something goes by the way with a death of a horse or something, people rally around. Well, I find this. I've only been in this bowling game for a couple of years, and I see the same sort of thing coming through. And when Lisa made mention that this was going to happen, I've got quite a few contacts in the racing industry, so I thought, well, I'm going to help out here. And so basically, when that started, I was invited up to one of the major breeders and one of the major racing stables. In fact, the number one racing stable in New Zealand has been for the last 7 or 8 years. Te Akau, David Ellis is the principal there, and he invited me up to his beach house a week or so ago. And after I'd consumed about 2 or 3 bottles of his finest wine and ate some of his beautiful bluff oysters, I put it to him. I said, any possible chance you could contribute to this wonderful cause? The Foxton Bowling Club has lost their premises, basically, and
Yes.
I belong to the Dino Bowling Club. Let's get together and see what we can do. And he actually says, I'll give a 5% share in a yearling I purchased at the Karaka sales. And I mean, that is just fantastic. That blew me away.
That is
but
amazing.
he added to it. He actually said, I'll tell you what. He says, I'll give 3 years, all expenses paid to go with it. Well, I mean, that was fantastic. And so as a consequence of that, that was the catalyst of the auction in many respects, because people came from all over with phone bids and everything.
Yeah.
But it went for $10,500 alone. So, I mean, how good is that?
That's a good start. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
That's great. And as you say, it's good to see. I like to think that in New Zealand we have a pretty good community spirit anyway, but it's nice for it to be proven with sort of your fundraising tournaments and how people get behind it. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that, Des. That's cool. Fundraising tournament was last weekend. I think there was a Bowls New Zealand team in it as well, and I understand that maybe our CEO might have thrown a wrong bias. Was there anything else interesting that happened over the weekend or during the tournament?
Not only did the CEO throw the wrong bias, 7 or 8 other people did too, and I was one included. But when I did it, there was a round of applause. I don't know why, but anyway, that happens in life, I guess. Look, I mean, that was the thing, really. I mean, there were a lot of clubs were involved. It wasn't just the Nino Club and the Foxton Club. There were a lot of clubs became involved with it too. So, the passion of helping somebody out, just stood tall as far as I was concerned. And I was pleased to be associated with it. I was the auctioneer. We sold all these things, and it was quite incredible to think that they raised $21,000 thereabouts over the 2 days with the auction, of course, on the Saturday night. So, just hats off to everybody involved, really.
Absolutely. What's the reaction been from, talking around at the community and stuff, and from the Foxton Beach Bowling Club? Have they had much to say?
Oh, they have. I mean, the person that bought that horse is a chap by the name of Stephen Moffat. He belongs to the Foxton Bowling Club. So, I mean, it's nice to know that,
Yeah.
And so you can imagine, once that horse goes to the races,
some club trips.
there'll be a lot of interest. People will be glued to their tracksides or what have you to watch the performance of that horse, and realising, of course, that the ball started rolling back at the Nino Club, over this past weekend. So that's all neat. And, it's just so good to see.
Absolutely. And you said, we'll just sort of segue away a little bit now. You said earlier you've been playing bowls for a couple of 3 years now. How did you get into the sport? What started you off?
Well, funny enough, about 20 odd years ago, a person that you guys probably know pretty well. He's a former great bowler. He still is a great bowler. I won't say former. He still is a great bowler. Lou Newman from Victoria Club is a good friend of mine, and he actually said to me one day, he says, "Look, we're doing this business house bowling." He says, "Do you want to take part in it?" And you'll be with me and another guy called Mark Burgess, who's turned out to be a pretty good bowler himself. Mm. And I said, "Yeah, good as gold." So I learnt the ropes from them, but then I was so much involved with broadcasting with radio trackside I never had a chance to sort of play on a club level, and I just let it go and didn't consider myself good enough to play at a club level, to be fair. But when trackside closed down about 2 years ago, a couple of boys, they had a bit of a roll up at the Nino Bowling Club, a good mates of mine, and they actually said, you go all right, Des, you go all right. And my 70th birthday turned around and they shouted me a membership at the Nino Bowling Club. So I basically,
That's
with
a subtle
trackside closed down, I thought, well, what am I going to do? Just walk the dogs all the time? No, I'll do something else. And I took up bowls and I love it. It's great fun. It's good camaraderie. It's good social atmosphere. And, as I said before, it's a bit like the racing industry I'm involved with. We have a lot of fun, have a couple of beers after the races. Well, you do the same thing after a game of bowls too. And you meet some neat people, and it's just nice to have that. I enjoy that. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. And you're a member of the Nino Bowling Club. Can you talk us through a bit about that club? They've got a big facility now. I know they just put a new carpet down underneath that covered roof. What's going on there?
Well, I think really that's probably the biggest thing for the Nino Bowling Club. They have that. It's quite unique, isn't it? Really, not many clubs in New Zealand can say this, and it's like an international indoor feature now. And so, as a consequence of that, I mean, the business is going to definitely grow because a lot of clubs, even clubs around New Zealand, around Wellington, the Greater Wellington region, they can't have probably winter tournaments because they don't have the facilities to be able to provide that for their bowlers. So the Nino Bowling Club can step up to the plate, and so there'll be a fair amount of outside club activity going on at the Nino Bowling Club. So that, you guys touched on it, that indoor facility is just so darn good for people to play bowls, 52 weeks of the year.
Yeah, you can't ask for much more than that, really. That's cool, Des. So we've got another question. It's nothing to do with bowls. It's just sort of we've been asking bonus questions of people the last few weeks in this podcast just to get a feel for what they think. So the question this week is, if you have a scone and there's cream and there's jam and you need to put those things on the scone, which one goes first?
Well, I'll be a bit different. I'll put the jam on. I'll leave the cream out.
No cream.
No, just probably tad, I suppose. You have your weak links every now and again, I suppose. But I'd probably go. Look, I tell you something. You're not going to believe it. Just half an hour ago, I just had coffee with a good mate of mine and I had a cheese scone with jam on it. So there you go. Left out the cream though.
That's good. Well, it's perfect. It's a perfect way to answer the question. So a cheese scone with jam. That's great. Well, thank you very much for having a chat to us, Des. We enjoyed having you on the podcast, and I'm glad that your fundraising tournament went well. I mean, it's just an incredible story, really, and we will be covering it more going forward and seeing what else we can do to help those guys. But for now, thank you very much, and have a good rest of your day.
Yes, thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thank you. So a cheese scone with jam on it, Erin. I didn't consider that when I was thinking of I didn't think that would be something that people would have.
No, I wouldn't have thought that you would have put jam on a cheese scone, but each to their own. I put butter on my scone before my jam and then cream on top, which I think some people would disagree with.
What's the logic there? Do you just think?
There's just something where the butter melts and then the jam can mix, and it just makes it a little bit more richer. And I don't know. Okay. I don't know. Maybe my grandmother used to do it, and I've always done it the same way she's done it. I can't recall, but I just enjoy it. And if you enjoy these things, then why not?
May as well, eh? For me, I go and the scone I think has to be a lemonade scone. That's an important part. So lemonade scone is you put like a what do you call it? A can of lemonade. Yes. Quite a lot of cream and flour, and I'm pretty sure that's all lemonade scone is. So it's quite a sweet scone. Yep. And then in your cream, you have to have a dollop of vanilla essence. Okay. And then you put your dollop of jam. Plum jam's a good one to have on the.
So here we go. I'm going to disagree with plum jam, and I'm going to be like, it needs to be raspberry. Okay. I think strawberry's a bit too sweet, but it's raspberry.
It's a raspberry one.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah. If someone put a plate of scones in front of me that were already done, I'm going to eat them.
That's fair enough.
I'm not going to look a gift horse in the face.
Yeah, I will be.
In the mouth.
I'll ask our bowling community, actually. I'll put the poll out and just see. Because it's related enough to bowls, isn't it?
You can always find a scone in a bowling club.
I've had many a scone at a bowling club, and they've all been good ones.
Exactly. Scones and club sandwiches, I think, are the most underrated things that you can get, and you can always find them at your bowling clubs, at your events, and they're just so well done.
I agree.
Yeah, they're the best things there. Yeah. All right. And on that little note about scones and savoury and jam and cream and all of that, thank you all for joining us on this episode of the Bowls Hour, the show for all things bowls and sometimes some other bits and pieces. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, remember to share it around. We can be found on Facebook every week from 7 p.m, as well as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and the Bowls New Zealand website, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in next week for more talk about everything bowls, and until then, roll on.
They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
Fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or?
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 3. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, double the 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it?
The Bowls Hour, brought to you by Summerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel.